Welcome to noise11.com, Bobby Valentine, on a topic I know a lot about, B.B. King and Eric Clapton. Good to have you here, Bobby.
Hi, Paul. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
This is a really fascinating show that you have planned with Andy McGarvey. The Riding with the King album was an Eric Clapton and B.B. King album that came out in 2000, so 25 years ago. Are you revisiting to mark the 25th anniversary of the album?
Yeah, well, the story is that it's one of my favourite, certainly one of my favourite blues albums of all time, and I was listening to it on the road up to our country property one day, and I just thought, like a bolt from the blue, this would actually make a good show because it's long for an album in terms of content. It sort of does a bit of a journey through different genre, like around the blues. And Eric's always been known to stretch the boundaries somewhat. And I've been doing a bit of work with a blues duo called Blues Roulette, it's a drummer and bass player, Ben Wicks and Johnny T. And they sort of bring different frontmen in to play with them as a rhythm section. And I thought, gee, it'd be a really good thing to do with them. And I've worked with Andy with them as well. And so the idea sort of started to gel a bit for me. And I rang Ben and I said, I'm thinking about doing this album. And he said, well, it just so happens it's the 25th anniversary of the release of the album. And I went, well, that's a sign. Those planets have already lined up. So it sort of all happened organically. It was great.
So B.B. King was 74 years old when he recorded this album. Eric Clapton was 55. So you're more playing the B.B. King part, I take it.
I'm definitely in the B.B. King area, that's for sure. And Andy's definitely more in the Eric Clapton, but also in playing styles, because I've got the easy gig because B.B. never played and sang at the same time. So I do one thing and then I do the other thing. And although having said that, there's a lot going on in this album. So I'm deep up to my armpits at the moment in learning the intricacies of it, so that it's not going to be absolutely note perfect because it's the blues. It would be wrong to sort of tackle it in that way. But having said that, there's a lot going on. They do the real down and dirty slow blues of B.B. King, like 3 o'clock in the morning and things like that. But then they do Come Rain or Come Shine, an absolutely brilliant bluesy remake of the Sinatra classic. And which, interestingly, I've done a bit of research and found that Frank Sinatra was B.B. King's favourite singer. So that was interesting and sort of made it more clear as to why Come Rain and Come Shine had been included on the album.
The original album had 12 tracks. There was a 2020 reissue to mark the 20th anniversary. They added 2 more tracks, Rollin' and Tumblin' and Willie Dixon's Let Me Love You Baby. Will you be adding those into the show?
Gee, you have done your research, Paul. I'm impressed. I think you know more about it than I do. We're going to put Rolling and Tumbling in because it's a fantastic song, and we're not going to do the other one because there's quite a few slower blues songs in the show, so we want to, particularly towards the end, we're doing the album in order. So when we get to the end of the album, we want it to be a little bit up. So what we're probably going to do, this is still a work in progress, but we're probably going to do a couple of other songs because we're doing the whole show. We haven't got anybody opening for us. So we'll probably do a couple of, like, there's a great duet that Eric Clapton and B.B. do of The Thriller's Gone, which I think was at one of Eric's Crossroads festivals. And then Andy wants to do a couple of Eric's songs, like maybe Cocaine or something off the Eric Clapton songbook, out of the songbook. And there's an absolute wealth. We're going to do My Daughter's in the Band, Lauren Elizabeth, and Mimi Zayeda Thomas are doing our backing vocals, the ladies in waiting, as we're calling them. And so we'll probably do a couple of duets with them. BB did a great duet with Sheryl Crow, and Eric's done duets with just about anybody. So there's a real wealth of content there. We're not going to be short of songs.
There was the very first time that Eric Clapton and B.B. King collaborated was on the 1997 album Juice's Wild. They did Rock Me Baby together on that album. Is that part of the selection for your set list?
Look, it could be. It was a good mate of mine who passed away a few years ago, Pete Laffey. You might have heard, you might know Pete Laffey, who was the original guitar player with Mondo Rock, amongst other things. And I actually sang he passed away in Hawaii, and almost a year later we had a memorial for him back home here, brought his ashes home, and I sang Rock Me Baby at that memorial. So there's a connection there, and there's like you can draw little connecting tangential lines all over the place. So the main thing is the album. As I said, we're going to do the album in its original order, context, and then probably have a bit of fun at the end. Anything could happen.
The original Writing with the King album featured special guests Doyle Bramwell II, Andy Fairweather Lowe and Jimmy Vaughan. I take it you've done the courtesy of ringing them and inviting them to the show.
Yeah, I would if I could get past the gatekeepers, you know what that's like. Yes, I'll let Mr. Vaughan know that you've called.
Yeah, they were some incredible musicians. Well, you know, we're talking about B.B. King and Eric Clapton. They could have anyone they want on that's right. Doing, but they always put together a remarkable band, didn't they?
They certainly did, and this is no exception. One of the difficult things, which is a very happy difficulty to have, is just the wonderful playing and the interplay that's going on between the members of the band. And we've been trying to, Andy and I and John McCall is our MD. We've been sitting down and trying to sort of decipher who's playing what, and it's not as simple as Eric's in the left channel and BB's in the right, because we think that they cross over, and then where the guests appear, we're not exactly sure. I think Robin Ford is a guest, and there's one solo that's just got Robin Ford stamped all over it. There's no doubt about that. But in a lot of cases, like even Eric, we're sure that Eric is playing a solo in the style of B.B. King. So, you know, so our roles are a little bit elastic. There'll be times when I will be playing some rhythm guitar and playing some other bits and pieces. And there's also, there's one of the songs, Warrior Man Blues, that I think, my gut feeling is that B.B. King's actually playing acoustic guitar, and I think this might be an historical moment when the first time he's ever picked up an acoustic guitar and recorded it.
Wow. That would be...
Makes for a good story, whether it's true or not.
It's something I think I need to start digging deep to fact check that one, because that's a remarkable piece of trivia.
Well, we are digging deep, and I did find on the net, I Googled production notes, and there is a fairly detailed listing of who plays on each track, but not necessarily who plays what. So there's, you know, the way the internet is these days, there's somebody out there's figured this out, and it'll be out there somewhere. We've just got to keep digging. Well,
the album did win a Grammy Award in 2001, so you have picked a very classy record to do live. And I take it you're going from beginning to end with the album. You're playing it as the track originally appeared.
We were debating whether we should mix up the order, but it's like maybe if it was a dancehall show, then, you know, we might wait a little more dancey towards the end. But it will be a seated and dancing in the aisles type of show. So yeah, we did talk about that. We're going to go with the original order of the album, and I'm old school. I'm a great believer in that. You know, the bands producers and everybody take a lot of time to decide what the order of the album should be. And one of the worst cases I ever came across was when iTunes first came out and I was listening to Sgt. Pepper's on it, and they played it in alphabetical order, and I was aghast. I mean, you can't do that. That's just sacrilege. And so yes, we'll be true to the original concept of the performers.
So there is the one show that I know about, Memo Music Hall, in April. But I would imagine this is a show that you could do over and over and over again and potentially take to right around Australia.
Well, we hope so. There's a lot of work going into it, so it's not going to be one show only, that's for sure. But we're really just starting to work on that now. The Memo show is basically a launch. Obviously, we don't have any performance videos, so, and you sort of need that in your press kit to sell it to, particularly if you're going up north where our names aren't so well known in Queensland and things like that. You need good live video. So probably we might pull some Victorian shows in this half of the year, but probably looking further afield, we'll probably look, I don't know, into the spring, going up north and taking it on the road.
Excellent stuff. Well, I've had the pleasure of interviewing B.B. King in my career, and he's a wonderful man. He's possibly one of the nicest people you can just sit in a room. No sense of stardom around him whatsoever. He's just a bloke in the room who loves a conversation.
Well, I have the dubious pleasure, or that's not even the right description, of actually dissing B.B. King, because I'll cut a very long story short. I was doing the Steve Izard show on a regular basis, and I was called in early one day, and I complained bitterly about being called in early because I didn't like hanging around waiting, and I was just told in no uncertain terms to get my butt in there, and walked into the green room, and there's B.B. King sitting there. And on that particular tour, he had guitarist Kenny Burrell playing with the band, and Kenny Burrell is the first guitarist I can remember hearing that played the jazz sort of guitar thing. And pardon me. And so we lined up, and B.B. King sitting in, a big, almost a throne-like chair, and I always got sort of tongue-tied. I met a lot of famous people in my time, and I always get tongue-tied and say something really stupid and just walk away kicking myself. And this was no exception, because I shook his hand and I said, "I love your work, Mr. King," and he just kind of looked at me as if to say, "Well, thanks." I said, "I love your work, Mr. King," and I wouldn't let go of his hand, and he sort of pulled his hand, and I said, pulled his hand away, and I said, "Is that Kenny Burrell over there?" And he said, "Yes, it is, Bob." And I went, "Oh, excuse me," and I sat and talked to Kenny Burrell for half an hour. With B.B. looking at me going, "Who was that asshole?" So it's not something I'm proud of, but it is what it is.
Well, this show makes up for all of that then. Your sins will be forgiven.
I'm absolved. That's nice to know.
All right, good to talk to you, Bobby.
Well, thanks very much for the time, Paul, and if you're around, come along and see the show.
Love to.